He was down 5-2. The crowd starting to believe, the momentum slipping, and somehow Jannik Sinner still walked away in straight sets. Let that sink in for a second. A match that should have gone to a third, a match where things clearly weren't clicking. And yet, the world number 2 found a way to win without dropping a set. And here's the part that should make the rest of the tour nervous. After the match, Sinner admitted he's not even close to his best level yet. So what happens when he is? Because this wasn't just another routine win at the Miami Open. This was a statement, but not the kind you usually expect. Facing Alex Michelsen, Sinner looked sharp early, composed, controlled. The first set? Tight, yes, but manageable. He edged it 7-5, leaning on that serve when it mattered most. 15 aces by the end of the match, 0 double faults. That alone tells you something. But the second set? That's where things got interesting. Suddenly, Sinner wasn't dictating anymore. Michelsen stepped up, swinging freely, pushing the Italian back. Before you knew it, the scoreboard read 5-2. And in tennis, that's not just a lead, that's a position where you're expected to close. But here's where the story flips. Instead of panicking, instead of forcing low-percentage shots, Sinner did something that separates great players from dangerous ones. He stayed calm. Point by point, game by game, he clawed his way back. No drama, no outbursts, just execution. And when the set reached a tiebreak, you already knew who had the edge mentally. That's the difference. That's what elite composure looks like. But what makes this even more fascinating is what Sinner said after the match. He didn't celebrate like someone who just extended a winning streak. He didn't talk like someone dominating a tournament. He said very honestly, "I'm not feeling perfectly." Now pause there. How often do you hear a top player in the middle of a winning run admit something like that? Most players hide it. They talk about confidence, rhythm, momentum. Sinner? He goes the other way. He points out the flaws. He talks about needing to improve. And that tells you everything about his mindset right now. Because this isn't a player chasing wins anymore. This is a player chasing levels. And there's a huge difference. He even mentioned how conditions are affecting him. Day sessions versus night matches, rhythm changes, adapting constantly. That might sound like a small detail, but at this level, it's everything. Tennis isn't just about hitting the ball well. It's about adjusting the variables, lighting, temperature, court speed, even the feel of the air. And Sinner is clearly still searching for that perfect balance in Miami. Yet somehow, he's still unbeaten. 6 sets played. 6 sets won. Let me say that again. He hasn't dropped a single set in this tournament. And he's saying he's not at his best. That's not normal. That's dangerous. Because when a player can win comfortably while feeling uncomfortable, that's when they become almost impossible to stop. Now let's talk about the bigger picture. This one wasn't just about reaching another quarterfinal. It extended something much more significant, his dominance in Miami. Sinner hasn't lost a match here since the 2023 final. 9 consecutive wins. Think about that. Different opponents, different conditions, different years, same result. Wins. And not just wins, convincing wins. Last year, he ran through the draw, beating players like Daniil Medvedev and Grigor Dimitrov with authority. This year, he's doing it again, but in a completely different way. Last year, it felt like dominance. This year, it feels like control. And there's a subtle but important difference between the two. Dominance is about overpowering your opponent. Control is about managing every situation, even the difficult ones. And that's exactly what we saw against Michelsen. Now here's where things get really interesting. Sinner is now just a few matches away from something incredibly rare, the Sunshine Double. Winning Indian Wells and Miami in the same year. Sounds simple, right? It's not. In fact, the last man to do it was Roger Federer back in 2017. Even players like Carlos Alcaraz haven't been able to pull it off. And that tells you just how difficult it is. Different conditions, different pressures, back-to-back elite tournaments. It's one of the toughest achievements in tennis. But Sinner is right there. And here's the scary part. He knows he needs to improve. He literally said it. If I want to go far in this tournament, I need to improve a couple of things. That's not weakness. That's awareness. And awareness is what leads to growth. Now think about his recent journey. Coming off the Australian Open, where he lost to Novak Djokovic in the semifinals, a match that tested him mentally and physically. A lot of players would carry that disappointment. Some would lose confidence. But Sinner, he sees it differently. He called it an incredible result. That tells you everything about how he processes wins and losses. He doesn't overreact when he wins. He doesn't collapse when he loses. He stays in the middle, balanced, focused, and that mindset is what's allowing him to keep improving year after year. He even said it himself, he understands his game better now. He knows what to do. He knows how to adjust. And that's what makes him such a difficult opponent. Because you're not just playing against his shots, you're playing against his understanding of the game. Now, let's talk about what might be coming next. His quarterfinal opponent could be either Terence at Maine or Francis Tiafoe. Two very different challenges. If it's Tiafoe, you're looking at a player who thrives on energy, crowd support, momentum swings. That could test Sinner in a completely different way. If it's at Maine, it's more about unpredictability, less pressure, but still dangerous. Either way, Sinner will need to raise his level. And he knows it. But here's the twist. What if he does? What if the version of Sinner we've seen so far isn't even the real version? Because right now, he's winning with solid serving, smart decision-making, and mental composure. But we haven't seen that explosive, unstoppable peak yet. And if that arrives in the later rounds, that's when this tournament could completely shift. So here's the question I want you to think about. Is this version of Sinner actually more dangerous than a fully dominant one? Because when a player is dominating, you can at least understand what's happening. But when a player is struggling and still winning, that creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is the hardest thing to play against. Drop your answer in the comments. Do you think Sinner wins the Miami Open this year? Or does someone stop him before the final? Because one thing is clear. He's not perfect. He admitted that himself. But he's still winning. And that combination? That might be the most dangerous thing in tennis right now. As the tournament moves forward, all eyes will be on how he adjusts. Will the day off help him reset? Will his level rise in the quarterfinals? Or will the cracks start to show? Because at this stage of the tournament, there's no hiding. Every opponent is capable. Every match is a test. And every small weakness gets exposed. But if there's one thing we've learned about Sinner, it's that he doesn't panic under pressure. He adapts. He learns. He improves. And sometimes, that's more powerful than playing perfect tennis. Because perfection is temporary. But growth? That's what creates champions. And right now, Jannik Sinner looks like a player who's still growing, even while winning. And that should worry everyone left in the draw. Because if he finds that next gear, this tournament might already be over. Tennis IQ,